Sometimes you see some 3D pen project online that looks like it might be kind of fun. And you think, ooh, I will try that. But when you do, it fails miserably, which is extremely discouraging. And you think, what's wrong? Is it the filament or the pen? Or is it me? Number one reason people give up on 3D pens is that they are trying to work on the wrong surface. Because while the plastic sticks to some surfaces perfectly, to others, not so much. The best way to test different surfaces is to write something in cursive script. If the loops are stripping off too easily, it's not adhesive enough. Ideally, the project should stay stuck to the surface until you decide it should come off. I mostly use Plexiglass, sprayed with matte acrylic finish. Untreated Plexiglass is normally so adhesive you wouldn't be able to remove the projects at all if you didn't spray it. So spray both sides so you don't accidentally use the wrong side. The same spray also works on surfaces that are originally not adhesive at all, so that is a way to make them more 3D pen user-friendly. Surfaces are a complex issue, and I already have 2 videos on the subject that are linked in the description. And all that's in them is still true. So why do we need an update? Since I published those videos, I get 2 sets of questions in my comments. One set is from people who tried the treated Plexiglass and have questions about it. So let's answer some of them. Like, I can't get it off. What am I doing wrong? These are the 2 brands of matte acrylic finish I have personally tested, and they worked for me. And here are some removals in real time. The problem might just be that it's kind of surprising that you have to make more of an effort than you would expect to get the removal tool under the piece. Once you do it, it usually pops right off. Use a thin tool like palette knife or a thin spatula or even a regular knife. Also, make sure the plastic and the surface have cooled enough. Everything sticks when it's hot. Plus, you need to make sure it's cold enough not to distort the project while removing it. Do I need to respray it every time? No. The coating lasts through multiple uses. However, every time you use it, it does leave a ghost image of the project on the surface, which tells me that the coating is wearing down a little bit with each use. But it takes quite a while, depending on how much you use it and how. This is a real-time example where the removal takes way too much effort. You should not be struggling quite this much. I was making triangles in pretty much the same spot over and over again, and it wore off the coating in the exact same area. And now it's getting harder and harder to take it off. Until, oops, I broke it. Definitely time to respray. Does it need to be this sticky? As always, that depends on what you need it to do. If you are just drawing a part of a picture, you can do it on any surface that will reasonably take the filament. This pattern has been thermally laminated, and that works for this well enough. However, look at what is actually happening once you start bridging in space. Watch that line. It actually shrinks and tightens as the plastic cools. You need both endpoints to stick securely to the surface. That's why this works. Now watch the tightening. And the same exact thing doesn't work in this case. because the pull will take it right off this kind of cardboard. Even though if you were just drawing a line on the same flat cardboard, it would work just fine. The adhesion is there, but there is just not enough of it for this stunt. So the question becomes, are you just drawing something, or do you also need the adhesion to keep the piece securely in place while you work on it? Here I'm making a start of four-legged animal, and I need it to stay in place the whole time I'm working on it. And that's a big ask since it is attached to the surface in just 4 tiny little points. And I will be poking at it with my pen and snip parts of it off with my pliers, which kind of shatters the whole structure. You may think I would be better off just holding the critter in my hand, which works, but only until you need to hold an extra part you are attaching in that hand, or hold a tool that you need an extra hand for. Then it becomes super handy that the bottom part stays put. We can't have things slide or wiggle if you are using both hands to do other stuff. So how can you tell if it's sticky enough? We already talked about the hello test, but even surfaces that pass the hello test, like this laminated pattern, which works fine for what I use it for, may not pass the lift test. I can lift this plexiglass sheet by the unfinished project and it won't fall off even when it's attached by just those 4 relatively small points. Now let's see how does the laminated paper surface do in this test. One leg came off already. That's not a good sign. Nope, not a chance. And the paper is a lot lighter than the plexiglass. So that's how you can tell what you can expect from what surface. The second type of questions comes from the 3D printer community. Wouldn't spraying it with something else be just as good or better? We use hairspray or glue sticks for such occasions. Let's find out. Makes total sense to ask. Hairspray and glue sticks have a lot of pros. They are less toxic to use, cheaper, easily available, and washable. But what I want to know, is it going to be sticky enough? How long would it take to dry, since glue sticks and hairspray are water-based? And how often would I have to reapply it? Every time? Or not all that often, like I'm used to? Took about 30 to 45 minutes to dry. It is a non-porous surface and I actually made 2 coats to be safe. This glue stick goes on purple and then clears as it dries, which I kind of like, so you can see where it goes and if I missed a spot. But you can certainly use the regular kind. Took about the same time to dry as the hairspray. It's not purple anymore as promised. So now we can see our patterns through it. Now let's test them. We'll start with the hello test. If that fails, we don't have to bother with the lift test anymore. Seems to be working just fine. Let's make sure it's cold enough to remove. It left the familiar shadow, but not any deeper than the one I'm used to. Here is the hello test on the glue stick surface. Cool enough to take off? Now, this one left way more prominent shadow. Let's see if I will be able to take off a second layer from the same spot. It's a bit harder to get it off, but it wasn't as cool as it should have been. Worked somewhat, but weirdly it left way more glue residue on the back than the first time. This may need more testing. Now for the final test. How sticky are they really? Let's do the hairspray one first. Okay, ready? Yes, this works. I didn't think it would. I apparently underestimated the holding power of hairspray. Now for the glue stick one. Okay. Ready? Yay! And we have a lift-off. So the Surface update 2025 is that both hairspray and glue stick work and may be easier and cheaper to come by. But test them for yourself to see what you prefer. Now you know how. I have been using glue stick on my tools when I need them to be somewhat sticky for certain tasks. And here the washability really helps because you don't want your tools to be sticky permanently. It also helps to make some clear tape more user-friendly in strategic jobs. As to how many times I can use these coatings before reapplication, that remains to be determined by long-term testing. It is possible that you may have to redo these coatings more often than the matte acrylic spray. Speaking of testing, how about all these other glues? Which one of these might work or be even better? Drop me a comment if you have any guesses. If you need to hear more about surfaces, here are my 2 previous videos on the subject. And until next time, go and make something.